Well, it's great to be joined now by Charlie Weekspell from Leighton Buzzard Narrowgauge Railway. How are you doing today?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Thank you for having me in.
Oh, it's a very exciting time because the railway is at its peak at this sort of time of year. You've got lots going on as we get towards Halloween and towards Christmas. So I thought it would be great to get you in the studio today and we can have a chat about the railway and about all of the exciting events that you have coming up. But first of all, for people that aren't familiar with what you have going on down there, could you just briefly explain what the Leighton Buzzard Narrowgauge Railway is? It's a steam railway, isn't it?
Well, it is a steam railway. It's better to say it's a narrow gauge railway. The line itself started in 1919 as a working railway, moving sand from the quarries at the top of Leighton Buzzard down to what's now Billington Road, where there were lorries and other railway trucks waiting to take the sand away. That continued for many, many years, until in 1968 some volunteers got together and decided to start a preservation movement, and thus Monday to Friday the railway was still transporting sand, but on the weekends we were transporting visitors and enthusiasts.
Wow.
As the years have gone on, the sand quarrying eventually stopped in 1981, but the preservation movement continued, and the whole purpose of the railway is to preserve the line as close to its original formation as possible and tell the story of how sand was transported and what it meant to Leighton Buzzard and the surrounding area.
So I guess it's quite unusual for a railway to be being preserved while it's still being used. And I think a lot of these railways, these enthusiast railways, were ones that were closed by beaching, or the lines have fallen into disrepair over the years and people have adopted them. But to be able to keep the railway line going while it's still intact, I guess is a special thing.
It is, and in a way that's probably quite unusual. You're absolutely correct. There are many heritage lines around the country, of all gauges, from miniature or narrow gauges, we are up to standard gauge. And you're quite right, a lot of them had a history whereby an old line had closed, maybe a rural branch line, and people have reanimated that, volunteers have regenerated that to tell that story. But for us to have that crossover, as you say, is quite rare. And thus we've always had that intention to tell the original story as close to the line's original formation as possible. So yeah, we are quite unique in that way, and we're very lucky in that, again, quite rare in heritage railway terms, we have always been exclusively volunteer run. We've never had a single paid member of staff in the 60 plus years that we've been running.
Which is phenomenal, really. When you think about the skill that's involved in keeping a railway running, you need to find volunteers that have got that particular skill set, that are willing to give up their time and work in all weathers to keep the line running.
Yes, absolutely. And we are very, very lucky in that we have an extraordinary band of volunteers who are very active on a weekly or monthly basis, who do everything from the engineering work that needs to be done to the heavy machinery to keep these things running, all the way through to greeting and serving members of the public in our retail store and our booking office, to planning and timetabling. There's so many functions that go on, and we are very, very grateful to our very large and committed band of volunteers. But as always, like every volunteer organisation, we always welcome more people, and we simply ask for as little or as much time as you're willing to give.
That is fantastic. And is it a particularly unusual thing to have a narrow gauge railway? Is it harder to find trains if you need extra trains and carriages for that kind of gauge, or is it quite a common format?
It is relatively common, and I suppose in that respect you would say locomotives are probably quite easy to come by, albeit they're not cheap. However, carriages are actually harder to come by because a lot of these narrow gauge lines were simply worked for industrial purposes.
Okay.
So you didn't have passenger carrying vehicles. For example, we built one of our new carriages from scratch, from the ground up, just 4 years ago. And when we extended our line, our most recent extension up to Mundy's Hill, again along the original formation, we reclaimed the wood from the trees that were cut down up there and used them to build a brand new passenger carrying carriage.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. So it's all very much sustainable as much as you can do. Although obviously you're burning fossil fuels. Do you go to a lot of work to try and make it as green as possible?
We do, and we're very mindful that, yes, whilst we are burning fossil fuels, the heritage railway sector contributes 0.3% of the UK's carbon footprint. So it's a tiny, tiny amount. Nonetheless, we still try to be mindful of everything else that we do and ensure that we use as much green energy as possible, that we have low energy light bulbs, that we keep our costs down in terms of utilities, we don't waste water, etc. So whilst we do have that fossil fuel burning element that we can't really avoid for now, we do try and do everything else we can to keep the railway as green as possible, with being mindful of sustainability and looking to the future all the time.
I was saying before, we're getting into the interesting time of year now where there's lots of stuff going on, and I think there's something about the colder months that makes a steam train ride a lot more exciting, a lot more evocative as you kind of go through all the bad weather and the snow and stuff, and it's got kind of vibes of Harry Potter and that kind of thing going on. So what have we got to look forward to as we get towards the autumn? I guess Halloween is coming up soon?
Halloween is coming up, and we have 3 days we're running Halloween events. Both on the preceding Sunday and on Wednesday and Thursday being the 31st of October. And what we tend to do, the plans aren't firmed up yet, but what we tend to do is we all get dressed up in costume and we try and make it, a little bit scary, and just try to sort of evoke the spirit of Halloween. And we encourage people to dress up as well, come along, look your best part with your ghost outfit or your monster outfit, whatever you want to wear. So yeah, Halloween's always a really exciting time and we have lots of fun with it.
Yeah, have you got a favourite Halloween costume?
I haven't picked mine out yet, no, but
okay.
I'm sure I'll find something in time and make sure that I am just as terrifying as everyone else.
Fantastic. So it's kind of like a ghost train, I guess, as you go on the ride. Are there a few surprises along the way as well?
Yes, there are. So last year we did something very special whereby the train disappeared under a new bridge that's been built, which normally looks like a large, wide open structure. But we made it very dark in there, and there were things jumping out of the dark, and lots of eerie smoke floating around as well. So doubtless there will be more surprises in store this year.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. Well, there's going to be lots of smoke anyway with a steam train, so
naturally
extra eerie. And then after Halloween, I guess it's full steam into Christmas.
It is. So we always have November off, so we don't run any services during November. But our volunteers nonetheless are hard at work setting up the line for the Christmas specials. We're very lucky that Santa has found time in his diary to come and visit us again this year.
Wow.
And in fact, Santa's going to be on hand to greet visitors from no fewer than 91 train services between the 1st and the 24th of December, with varying numbers between 6 and 8 trains each day. And visitors under 12 get a present from Santa and some FaceTime with them. And adults get a mince pie and a hot cup of homemade punch thrown into the mix as well. We decorate the whole station. We design and build our own Santa's Grotto every year. And our volunteers create a new edition of it every year, so it's always different. And the steam train ride that's included is about 25 minutes, goes up to the first third of our line and back again, rather than going the whole length of the line in the cold. But we do have a mixture of both open and closed carriages, so there'll be a chance to be somewhere in the warm as well, rather than being out braving the elements.
And does Santa come on the train as well, or does he meet you at the other end?
No, Santa stays in his grotto and meets us at the home station when you come back from your train ride. Although sometimes the elves do manage to bring him out, and he comes along, waves hello to everyone along the train, and greets the children and passengers alike.
Oh, it sounds wonderful. 91 services, though. You're going to be very busy.
We are, and it's testament to the extraordinary work of our volunteers as to how much effort they put in to run all those services. Bear in mind, each of those trains needs a driver and a fireman, and a guard and an assistant, and a duty manager, plus shop staff, booking office staff, and volunteer elves to help Santa out as well. So actually there's a lot of commitment and time that goes into it, plus all the preparatory work in advance. And decorating the station is not an easy job. It involves going up ladders, stringing up lights, and so on.
Yeah.
But everyone mucks in. Everyone really, really celebrates the Christmas spirit and joins in the hard work to ensure that the children and the adults, everyone has a great time when they come and see Santa.
Yeah, it sounds really magical. And I think the lovely thing is because, as you say, you're all volunteers, you know that your ticket price is covering exactly the cost of providing that experience, which is, you've got to buy all the decorations, you've got to get the coal, and you've got to keep the trains maintained and running. So it's not an easy thing to organise.
No, you're right. There are a lot of costs involved. And yes, all the money that we make from the ticket sales goes towards, as you say, buying the coal and the oil and the diesel for other engines, keeping the lights on in the building, keeping the water flowing from the tap, and contributing towards the elves who've been busy making all the presents for the children. So yeah, you can be assured that nobody's making any money out of this. We're an independent charity and always have been. So you're right, all that revenue goes towards the upkeep of the railway and providing that beautiful presentation.
Yeah, and providing magic for kids. Kids love trains, don't they? They just get so excited by trains and Christmas as well. So bringing them both together, I bet everybody has such a wonderful time.
They really do. And there's more going on as well, that things that are new for 2024. We've done some extra weekday services before the schools break up, designed for the youngest children who maybe aren't at nursery or aren't at primary school yet. They can come along and meet Santa when things are a little bit quieter.
Okay, that's good.
And on that note, exactly, we're also providing special quiet trains, the dates of which are yet to be confirmed, but they will be advertised on our website and on social media, whereby the whole experience will be calmed and quietened down to provide for children with special needs. We have to confess we're not the first railway to do it, but we've seen great practice done elsewhere on other railways, and we feel that we want to contribute to that as well.
Absolutely, it's a great idea, and I think people of all ages with special needs will appreciate having that opportunity to do it in a way that is exciting but without being overwhelming.
Exactly so. And we're also very proud to say that our railway is also fully accessible throughout. It's level access throughout. We provide wheelchair compartments within the carriages for anyone who needs them. And we ensure that it's step-free access throughout the entire place. So we try to be as accommodating and create maximum accessibility as much as we can.
It's great for people with buggies as well. This is something that I've been discovering over the last few years. It's just how difficult it is to get a buggy around a lot of places. So that level step-free access is a godsend for people that have got really small kids. That sounds really exciting. And then I guess the fun doesn't stop on Christmas Day. It carries on into January.
Well, yes. So for that really awkward period between Christmas and New Year, when you never know what to do with yourself, and you're feeling kind of all Christmased out, but you still want something to do with the family, we run our mince pie special. So we keep warming up the mince pies, which, by the way, are provided by a local supermarket. They contribute a certain percentage of our mince pies as a donation to us.
That's good of them.
We keep providing them. We keep making our homemade punch, the recipe for which hasn't changed in 20 years because it's so popular.
Wow.
And we run our mince pie specials for a few days between Christmas and New Year. After that, we then take a break, and we start running again for the main season, usually around the second weekend of March. Usually Mothering Sunday is when we start again. And in the period between January and March, that's when we do all our heavy maintenance. So the engines are drained of all their water and then winterized, we call it, to protect them from frost over the winter. And then when it thaws out, we start preparing them again, have their annual safety inspections, which have to be done, and make sure they're all shipshape and well polished when the season starts again in March.
This is the thing that you don't realise how much work goes on behind the scenes to operate a steam railway, and completely independent of anyone else helping you. You've got to do it all yourselves.
Exactly so, and like I said, all the revenue we earn through the gate is what goes towards keeping coal in those locomotives, keeping the water flowing, putting diesel in the shunting engines, etc., and keeping the lights on in the buildings. And it happens all over the country. As I said, we have a very big heritage railway scene in the UK, which is very exciting. But the fact that, there are volunteers up and down the country doing that. And like I said, we're extraordinarily grateful for the amazing hard work and talent that our volunteers contribute.
And is there quite a nice network of collaboration between the different railways that you kind of share ideas and news updates and stuff, and kind of everyone, there's a nice sort of community of enthusiasts?
Yes, there is. And we are a proud member of the Heritage Railway Association, who are, in a way, sort of an independent national body that brings together all heritage railways of all gauges and heritage tramways as well. And we attend their conferences, network with our peers, And there's sort of informal networking as well. So if we haven't got the solution to a problem, there's a very good chance we can pick up the phone, speak to person A or person B at railway X or Y or Z,
Yeah.
and they'll know how to help. And they'll say, oh, try this or do that, or bring me that part over and I'll help you machine it. So everyone's really contributing to everyone else's success.
Is it quite hard to get the bits that you need for some of these trains? Because they're quite old trains, some of them. And I guess if something breaks and you need a replacement widget, like, I guess you have to make some of them yourselves.
You literally do have to make them from scratch. You can't just nip to Halfords and buy a part because it doesn't exist like that. But once again, our volunteers have the skills that we need. There's very little that we can't do on site, with the exception of boiler making, for which we have to go to an independent contractor. And there are a few specialist organisations around the country that make boilers for our locomotives, which thankfully is only a once in 10-year job, or even less sometimes. But if we need other parts, we will just buy a lump of metal and make it ourselves, machine it ourselves, be it putting it, cutting it or putting on a lathe, and we make those parts ourselves. The very good news is that for almost all of our locomotives, we still have access to original blueprints, or we know somebody who does. And we can find the drawings from well over 100 years ago.
Wow.
And we can make things ourselves, or we find very old photographs. A really good example is a locomotive that just came into traffic last weekend, having gone through a huge overhaul. It's what we call a heavy general overhaul. And the custodians of that have done this full job. New boiler, new fittings, everything. And that locomotive dates from 1877. It's one of the oldest working steam locomotives in the country.
Wow.
But we were able to find original drawings that helped us and them put it back together and make new parts for it as required.
That's remarkable. And what I found really interesting, and this is the great thing, it's not just the train ride, it's the conversations that you have with some of your volunteers, and they are so excited by trains and everything that's going on there. They're more than happy to just tell you everything that you could possibly want to know. And some of these trains have been brought over from the other side of the Atlantic and like all over the world.
Yes, so, I mean, some of our locomotives are original to our site. There's one diesel engine in particular that has never left our site in 70 years. It started work there with us in 1954 and has never left. Whereas one of our other steam locomotives used to work on a plantation in South Africa. And then another one worked at the mines in Portugal. And so and another one went to the trenches in the First World War and then went to India. So You're right, they come from all over the place, but the work that we've put in to understanding their background and their provenance means that we're able to tell the story and explain the relevance of that locomotive or that carriage or that wagon to our railway and to the wider narrow-gauge railway story.
And should I start calling them locomotives rather than trains then?
Yes, absolutely. A train is a whole formation. A locomotive is just the steamy bit at the front. When you've put a locomotive with carriages or wagons, that makes a train.
That makes a train.
Yeah,
right.
You've got to know the terminology.
Learning all the time. So if people like to find out more, if they like to book tickets for any of your events coming up, how can they do that?
The easiest way is to visit our website, which is simply buzzrail.uk.
Okay, nice and snappy.
Nice and snappy, but also follow us on social media. So it's at facebook.com/buzzrail or on Instagram just @buzzrail. So it's a common theme, it's easy to follow. Or just search Leighton Buzzard Narrowgauge Railway and you'll find us quickly enough. And when you see the logo that you've got on the screen, you know you're in the right place.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, and we're looking forward to staying in touch with you and hearing about more exciting events that you have coming up. But good luck with the autumn and winter season over at the Leighton Buzzard Narrowgauge Railway. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Absolute pleasure.